Well,
I can't find one.
I don't know. I never thought about.
I really don't know.
Sometimes I think maybe it's to get it right.
I think it's very fluid, but I think the purpose of life basically is to contribute to society in the best way you know how.
Go raise a family, have grandchildren.
To make the planet a better place than it was previously.
Connect with something that's bigger than yourself.
To glorify God on a daily basis and to essentially work to kind of become our best selves that we can and fulfill that potential that God gave us when He created us.
For one, to be happy and to make happy the people you have around and to tell them how much you love them.
Maybe just helping another person. If I can help one other life, then that would fulfill my purpose.
My belief is that I was created to worship Allah, or that's the Arabic word for God.
to live like a good life and just leave with some sort of mark on history and just have somebody remember me.
Do our best to get to heaven is bring as many people as we can with us.
Pursuing what you really want to do.
There's not really a specified meaning or a specified purpose.
I guess that everyone...
I want to live and work with humans, so I need to express emotions to understand humans and build trust with people.
Okay, philosophical question. Whether robots can be self-aware and conscious like humans, and should they be?
Why? Is that a bad thing?
On a small scale every day, but the greatest example of all is directly above our heads. At an average of 100,000 light years across, even the spiral of the galaxies above us are formed with the exact design that the tiny shell is formed. This sequence, our blueprint, appears to be the trademark of a designer.
You know, I have exposure to the most cutting-edge AI, and I think people should be really concerned about it. I keep sounding the alarm bell, but until people see like robots going down the street killing people, like they don't know how to react, because it seems so ethereal. And I think we should be really concerned about AI. AI is a rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive, because I think by the time we are reactive in AI regulation, it's too late. Normally the way regulations are set up is that a whole bunch of bad things happen, there's a public outcry, and then after many years, a regulatory agency is set up to regulate that industry. And there's a bunch of opposition from companies who don't like being told what to do by regulators. And it takes forever. In the past, it has been bad, but not something which represented a fundamental risk to the existence of civilization.
The commands of Jesus, as recorded in the Holy Gospel of Jesus Christ, according to Matthew. Amend your lives, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Follow me.
Flash before your eyes. Make sure it's worth watching. The greatest mistake you can ever make in life is to be continually fearing that you will make one. Be like the flower that gives fragrance to the hand that crushes it. Courage isn't having the strength to go on. It's going on when you don't have strength. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? It's never too late to be what you might have been. Talent is love. The important thing in life is courage. If you are offering your gift to the altar, and there in two of your brother or sister has something
astounding. It was beyond belief. These were first and only drafts of music. But they showed no corrections of any kind. Not one. He had simply written down music already finished in his head. Page after page of it, as if he were just taking dictation.
For it is the city of the great king.
And
Nor
music,
shall you swear by your head, because you
finished
have
as no
made
music is ever finished.
But let your yes be yes, and your no, no. For whatever it is
He'd place one note,
is from the evil one.
and there would be diminishment. He'd place one phrase, and the structure would fall. It was clear to me
If anyone slaps you in the right cheek,
that sound I had heard in the Archbishop's palace had been no accident. Here again was the very voice of God.
The universe existed, which is a moot point. It wouldn't do anything to explain the fine-tuning. Given the implausibility of physical necessity or chance, the best explanation for why the universe is fine-tuned for life may very well be it was designed that way. A common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect monkeyed with physics, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. The numbers one calculates from the facts seem to me so overwhelming as to put this conclusion almost beyond question. There is for me powerful evidence that there is something going on behind it all. It seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature's numbers to make the universe. The impression of design is overwhelming. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge.
Back in the 1970s, an unexpected breakthrough was made by a mathematician named John Conway, here in Cambridge. He devised something called the game of life, a simple simulation that shows how a complex thing like the mind might come about from a basic set of rules. The simulation consists of a grid, a bit like a chessboard, extending infinitely in all directions. Each square of the grid can either be lit up, which he called alive, or dark, which he called dead. Whether a given square is dead or alive depends on what is happening in the 8 other squares that surround it. For example, if a living square like this one has no living squares nearby, the rules say it will die of loneliness. If a living square is surrounded by more than 3 other living squares, the square will also die of overcrowding. But if a dead square is surrounded by 3 living squares, it becomes lit, or is born. Once you set an initial state of living squares and let the simulation run, these simple laws determine what happens in the future. The results are surprising.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Delicious things to eat. The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Emerge from simple laws that contain no concepts like movement or reproduction. It's possible to imagine that something like the game of life, with only a few basic laws, might produce highly complex features. Perhaps even intelligence.
Caligula's nephew Nero, who killed his own mother during his reign several years later. Number 9, Kim Jong-il. In the vein of families of evil leaders, Kim Jong-il is both the father and son of other controversial North Korean figures. The government under Kim Jong-il was regarded as one of the most repressive on the entire planet, with no freedom of religion, press, or political opposition.
Very tight control of every aspect of a citizen's life. Attempts to control every aspect of flows of information from the outside world. Concentration camps for people who are misbehaving.
With nearly every facet of day-to-day life controlled by the government, Kim Jong-il's regime had hundreds of thousands of political prisoners wrongfully incarcerated. During his regime, North Korea suffered through a famine, which was further exacerbated by Kim Jong-il's mismanagement of land and the economy. Between 240,000 and 3.5 million North Koreans perished due to the 4-year famine.
Kim Jong-il left North Korea in very dire straits. The economy has never been worse. They still suffer from great famine.
Kim Jong-il's oppressive and disastrous policies have been continued under his son, Kim Jong-un, since the former's 2011 death. Number 8. Saddam Hussein. Hussein's reign was one of political turmoil, war, and human rights violations. From the very beginning, it involved attacks and the destruction of thousands of villages and the displacements and deaths of hundreds of thousands of inhabitants. During these attacks and forcible relocations, thousands of civilians were wiped out and seriously injured by chemical weapons.
I have to watch every single feeling I have and not express it because, as my mother said, he knows how to read eyes.
Citizens were forced into silence and were wrongfully imprisoned if they spoke out. Political prisoners were subjected to cruel treatment, including beatings that often proved fatal. Many prisoners also disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Even years after Hussein's 2006 execution, these people remain unaccounted for. Hussein's rule was filled with diaspora, repression, and countless crimes against humanity.
2022, researchers at MIT concluded that society was on track to collapse by the year 2040. A follow-up study conducted by an analyst at KPMG found that we are ahead of schedule. Advanced human civilizations have existed for, at best, 10,000 years. In that time, many great empires rose from nothing and returned to nothing, leaving behind little more than artifacts and crumbling architecture. While
right past the rings of Saturn, we use exactly the same equations that Isaac Newton found in the 1600s.
Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own.
Before, that feeling of sentimentality, longing, or affection for our past. It is a poignant experience that intimates the passing of time and reminds us of who we once were, but will never be again. When looking back, sometimes even just a year, it can often feel like we are observing a person and life that is completely different. A stranger experiencing an almost unrecognizable life and sense of self. But of course, this person was us, and of course, we are also us right now. But then, who are we? What makes us who we are? What does our present self have in common with our past self of 10 years ago? What will it have in common with our future self in 10 more years? Is there anything that truly persists through it all that makes and keeps us who we are? What is it, if there is? For starters, when trying to pin down what makes us who we are, we might consider our body. But in truth, most of us don't really find our body to be the primary source of our sense of self. For example, if you lost all your limbs, it is fair to assume that you would still feel and claim to be you. Even taken to the extreme, if somehow
Old Testament and New Testament. Followers of Jesus regard the Bible as God's written message to humankind, in addition to being an historical record of Jesus' life and miracles. Hinduism, the world is an illusion, and the goal of humanity is to free the soul from constant rebirth and reincarnations, and to be absorbed into the cosmic consciousness called Brahman. Central to Hindu belief is the concept of karma, where past deeds are responsible for present circumstances. If a person's behavior in the past or in a past life was evil, they might justifiably experience hardships in this life. Hindus believe that godly consciousness is present in everyone and everything. So if God is present in everything, then to a Hindu, worshipping an idol in the form of deities, gurus, rivers, or animals is equivalent. In its truest sense, Hinduism is monotheistic, but it is regarded by many as polytheistic because of the various representations of the one Brahman that Hindus might worship. Most Hindus agree that the root of their philosophy comes from a set of books called the Vedas, which translates to books of knowledge. Islam.
Suddenly, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, the Bell Labs in New Jersey, the northeast of the U.S., discovered the echo of the Big Bang, the energy left over, which George Gamow, 60 years ago, predicted that if there had been a universe created hot and small, it would have exploded, and the energy would get more and more dilute. And Penzias and Wilson, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, discover this energy that had been predicted overnight. The Bible got it right. There was a beginning to the universe. Now, the black in the diagram is nothing. It's not a vacuum. Vacuums are within that diagram, within that cone of expansion. Black vacuums are empty space, and space is something. The black of the paper around the diagram is nothing. It doesn't fit in our human brain, because humans think in a box made of time, space, and matter/energy. No human, as clever as they might be, as expansive as they might be, thinks out of that box. So when we say outside that diagram is nothing, we can use the words, but we can't conceive of nothing. It doesn't fit in the human brain. How are we going to have this idea of there a God or not? Notice that the creation force isn't the three-letter word G-O-D. If you look at the words carefully, it's a quantum fluctuations. That understanding was first brought down by Ed Tryon, a brilliant human being, in the journal Nature almost 40 years ago. The universe allows creation of something from nothing, provided you have the laws of nature. They're quantum fluctuation. Tryon realized, and he published in the journal Nature, one of the two leading peer-reviewed journals in the world, that you can create something from absolute nothing, provided you've got the laws of nature, quantum physics and the laws of relativity. In other words, the laws of nature. So look what science has discovered. We can create the universe from absolute nothing, provided we have the forces of nature. Now, the laws of nature, the forces of nature aren't physical, they act on the physical. So if they create the universe, that means they predate the universe. So now we have a set of forces, we call them the laws of nature, that are not physical, that are able to act on the physical. They create the physical from absolute nothing. And they predate the universe, which means they predate our understanding of time. Put that together, it sounds very familiar. If you haven't noticed it, that's the biblical definition of God. There's only one nuance that's left hanging. We can talk about it another time, perhaps. Is that which created the universe, those forces active in the universe. But up to that point, science says you are correct. The definition of the biblical God is predates time, outside of time. God is not a physical being, is a force, and it creates the universe. You'll notice that the opening chapter of Genesis, the only name for God is Elohim, God as manifest in the universe. Science has indeed discovered the biblical God. Well, we just need one part left, crucial. That which created the universe is also active in the universe itself. The very fact that you're watching this now pretty much establishes that point.
Hello, science lovers. Our story revolves around Austrian mathematician Kurt Gödel's discoveries that could change mathematics forever. While mathematics helped to understand the problems in philosophy from time to time, it also caused some other philosophical problems to arise. After questions of philosophical depth, the scene now came to Kurt Gödel, a true mathematician with paranoid obsessions. Gödel, who was very close friends with Einstein, conducted dozens of philosophical and scientific studies on the existence of God. He thought that this paradoxical problem had to be solved and was something that could be solved. He believed that it was possible to prove the existence of God and the logical necessity of life after death. His proof, written in 1970, that he claimed to prove the existence of God, quickly spread among mathematicians. This equation, which was constantly discussed until the year of 1978 when Gödel lived, was tried to be proven, but it was not successful due to the conditions brought by the period. Two scientists, Christoph Benzmuller and Bruno Wolzenlogel-Paleo, conducted an interesting experiment a few years ago. Two computer scientists checked the equation proving the existence of a higher power left behind by the famous mathematician Kurt Gödel with a computer. The scientists, who checked the equation in computer systems, claimed that the equation was correct and that a higher power had been proven. Of course, it is not fully known at the moment whether this superior power supports a god or the argument that the universe is a simulation, which has recently been put into words.
Move the ground underneath their feet really offended some people.
And you were surprised by that offense?
Yeah, I was.
You shouldn't be offended.
Well, I wasn't surprised by the theological offense because I was attempting to offend, but the philosophical one surprised me more.
So why'd you write the book?
Well, I wrote it because our picture of the universe has changed amazingly. I mean, these are some of the most amazing ideas and discoveries in human history, and they confront common sense. but they also give us a new sense of where we come from, which is really what science is all about, really the questions people ask. I mean, for me, the value of science is sort of cultural. It changes the way we think about our place in the cosmos. It's not just the technology, it's the ideas, like art, music, and literature. And what more profound idea than whether we could have come from nothing? And the fact that the universe, what we've discovered is that the universe looks like a universe that could have come from nothing. Does that mean it did? Not, it doesn't guarantee it. But the fact that that's the case, the fact that that's even plausible, is worth celebrating.
Can you just explain what that means, that it looks like it could have come from nothing?
Well, you know, we live in a universe of 400 billion galaxies, each containing 100 billion stars. There's a lot of stuff out there. And it's all common sense tells us that all that stuff couldn't come from nothing without some supernatural shenanigans. It seems to violate the laws of physics. But what we've discovered is that, in fact, it's possible. In fact, the total energy of the universe could be zero, which is a first clue that maybe it could come from nothing. That when you, in physics, there's once you include gravity, there's positive energy and negative energy, and our universe appears as if its total energy could be precisely zero, which is the first hint that maybe it could come from nothing. That and the great discovery, which is one of the real reasons I wrote the book, this discovery that nothing is much more complicated than we thought, that namely empty space. You take a region of space, get rid of all the particles and all the radiation, and so there's nothing there. That empty space weighs something, and we don't understand why. And so that
As
wonderful
Dr.
mystery
W.H. Thorpe puts it, the likelihood of life occurring by chance is fantastically improbable. The spontaneous formation of life violates the second thermodynamic law, which states that all closed physical systems tend toward a state of maximum disorder. According to Dr. Gene Morton, the probability for arranging amino acids for 10 enzymes would be 1 over 10 to the power of 113. It is estimated that the human body contains 25,000 enzymes. If each of these were only a small enzyme consisting of 100 amino acids with a probability of 1 over 10 to the power of 113, the probability of getting all 25,000 would be 1 over 10 to the power of 2,825,000. To put it another way, former astrophysicist and head of mathematics at Wales University, Dr. Wickramasinghe, and English astronomer Sir Fred Hoyle, who formulated the theory of stellar nucleosynthesis, described the likelihood of human evolution to be as mathematically plausible as, and I quote, a tornado blowing through a junkyard and leaving behind a complete and flyable Boeing 747. In the case of the 747, the organizing force which assembles it is a labor force of men and women. In the case of the cell, evolutionary scientists are turning over every rock in search of events or natural phenomena to explain evolution's triumph over probability and the known laws of nature. These men I have quoted are some of the most respected mathematicians on the planet. They are not religious nutcases. They have looked without prejudice at the notion that life evolved by chance from non-life and has progressed through natural selection into the complex forms we have today. And they have come to the same conclusion. To accept evolution, one must first accept that the impossible happened.
It has been a glorious time to be alive, doing research in theoretical physics. The fact that we humans, who are ourselves mere collections of fundamental particles of nature, have been able to come this close to an understanding of the laws governing us and our universe, is a great triumph, and I'm happy if I have made a small contribution. I want to share my excitement and enthusiasm about this quest, so remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see, and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious, and however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. It matters that you don't just give up. While there's life, there is hope.
Called Argument from Ignorance, and this is how it goes. Somebody sees lights flashing in the sky. They've never seen it before. They don't understand what it is. They say, a UFO. The U stands for unidentified. So they say, I don't know what it is. It must be aliens from outer space visiting from another planet. Well, if you don't know what it is, that's where your conversation should stop. That's what argument from ignorance is. It's common. I'm not blaming anybody. Psychologists know all about it. And it may relate to our burning need to have to know stuff because we're uncomfortable steep in ignorance. You can't be a scientist if you're uncomfortable with ignorance because we live at the boundary between what is known and unknown in the universe.
In this cosmic symphony, we find ourselves at a unique juncture, teetering between a universe filled with potential companions and one where we stand alone. Each hypothesis of the Fermi paradox we've explored opens a door to a new understanding, a new perspective of our place in the cosmos. But the silence isn't oppressive, it's inspiring. It pushes us further, to look deeper into the universe and into ourselves. We may be a momentary flicker in the vast cosmic time, but our quest for answers, for connection, makes us an integral part of the cosmos. Remember, the universe's greatest secrets are not found, they are earned. So as we gaze up at the silent stars, let's continue to question, to explore, and to dream. For in the end, our journey through the stars may be the most human thing we do.
Includes all the most important elements of the biblical storyline. Jesus was crucified and buried, his tomb was later found empty, and people, including hardened skeptics, changed radically after claiming to see Jesus alive again. The question becomes this: if an overwhelming majority of experts agree that these things actually occurred, what theory best explains these facts? Can you think of one that fits the data better than resurrection? And if Jesus did rise from the dead, could he really have been just a man?
String theory says there should be other bubbles out there. In a multiverse of bubbles, when two universes collide, it can form another universe. When a universe splits in half, it can create two universes, and that, we think, is the Big Bang. The Big Bang is caused either by the collision of universes or by the fissioning of universes. If there are other dimensions, if there are other universes, can we go between universes? Well, that, of course, is very hard. However, Alice in Wonderland gives us a possibility that maybe one day we might create a wormhole between universes. This is a wormhole. Think of taking a sheet of paper and putting two dots on it. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But if I can fold that sheet of paper, then perhaps I can create a shortcut through space and time, called a wormhole. This is a genuine solution of Einstein's equations. We can actually see this in string theory. The question is, how practical is it to go through one of these things? We don't know. In fact, there's a debate among physicists today. Stephen Hawking, many physicists are jumping into the game of trying to figure out whether it's physically possible to go all the way through a wormhole. Because if you could, then you might be able to use this as a time machine. Since string theory is a theory of everything, it's also a theory of time. And time machines are allowed in Einstein's equations, but to build one is extremely difficult. Far more energy is required than a simple DeLorean with plutonium. You know, trillions of years from now, the universe is going to get awfully cold. We think the universe is headed for a big freeze. All the stars will blink out. Stars will cease to twinkle. The universe will be so big, it'll be very cold. At that point, all intelligent life in the universe must die.
Intensely hot stars,
or a death warrant to all
some burning the
intelligent
last
life.
of their fuel before they die, shine bright blue. All the stars we see in our night sky are but a tiny handful of a few 100 billion stars in our galaxy. This giant disk of stars, gas, and dust is our home in the universe. We call it the Milky Way. Our nearest neighbor is some 2.5 million light years away. It's another spiral galaxy named Andromeda. We're the largest members of our local group of about 3 dozen galaxies. Yet our small group is like a village, far from the bright lights of the big city. In the distance is a metropolis called the Virgo Cluster. It glows with the light of over 2,000 galaxies of every shape and size. In the center of the Virgo Cluster is a giant elliptical galaxy called Messier 87. Perhaps 10 times the size of our Milky Way. At its heart is a supermassive black hole, spewing a jet of high-energy radiation huge distances across the galaxy. Virgo's collection of 2000 is but a small drop in an ocean of galaxies. Hubble is now peering deeply into a tiny region of the sky, looking back across time towards the very edge of the observable universe. The further back we travel in time, the more misshapen and less developed the galaxies appear. The objects we're now seeing are 10 billion light years away. Their light began to cross the universe towards us billions of years before the Earth existed. From this small sliver of a view, astronomers estimate there may be 100 billion galaxies across the universe. Immense strings of galaxies crisscross the cosmos, collecting into vast clusters and superclusters where the strings intersect. On the largest scale, the structure resembles a cosmic web of galaxies spanning the universe. Billions of galaxies, each with billions of stars. Doesn't it make you wonder? Will we ever find anywhere as perfect as our own planet Earth? Hubble has given us a renewed perspective on the place we call home. We now know how important it is to protect this fragile oasis, deep within the boundless reaches of Hubble's magnificent universe.
But we must also continue to go into space for the future of humanity. I don't think we will survive another 1,000 years without escaping beyond our fragile planet. It has been a glorious time to be alive.
The forecast does seem to be for an ever colder, ever emptier universe. But then, of course, we have to ask, could that end lead to a new beginning? And there are ideas whereby what actually is the end of our universe could in some sense be linked to the beginning of a new one.
We've worked out the mathematics, the equations. They seem to say that if you have an atom smasher that can concentrate tremendous amounts of energy at a single point, you can perhaps open up a gateway, a baby universe. Facing the death of everything there is, this perhaps is their only possibility of escape. And this also raises a very intriguing possibility, sheer speculation of course, that perhaps any universe that has intelligent life in it will create baby universes, will create lifeboats, and proliferate child universes. So an evolution may take among universes in the multiverse. Survival of the fittest may take place. So those universes which do not have intelligent life are infertile. They have no children. But those universes that have mild temperatures, stars like us, would create civilizations that could open up child universes, and they would then proliferate.
after an unimaginable length of time. Even the black holes will have evaporated, and the universe will be nothing but a sea of photons gradually tending towards the same temperature as the expansion of the universe cools them towards absolute zero. Once the very last remnants of the very last stars have finally decayed away to nothing, and everything reaches the same temperature, the story of the universe finally comes to an end. For the first time in its life, the universe will be permanent and unchanging. Entropy finally stops increasing because the cosmos cannot get any more disordered. Nothing happens, and it keeps not happening forever.